things before we while we give ourselves the opportunity to arrive in here, I just want to always come back to our 7 stages of the group, like of the group structure, and to just use every point of the fundamentals training to just reframe the actual structure of what we're doing here, right? Because this is a training, so we're going to be bringing in concepts and ideas, and we're going to be doing things that maybe we don't always do in our traditional groups together, but we're using those as opportunities to accelerate our appreciation of the fundamentals of like why we do what we do. And so just go ahead and give yourself the opportunity to arrive, right? To arrive here in the space. Right? And when you do that, just notice you can be somewhere else. And I am not the Unshakable Man team. I am Chris Wilson. And just notice that you have your own innate ability to come into the space, to arrive. And last week, to just reframe or to reconnect with where we were last week, it was connection, the power of presence, and how to check in. Connection, the power of presence, and how to check in. And one of the key takeaways from our first night together is that we connect with the experience of our life through the body. We connect with our experience of our life through the body. And that we're having the nervous system, right? Our body is scanning, our nervous system is scanning the environment all of the time to check in with what is going on in our environment. Then it's sending signals up to the brain. And then the brain is sending signals down to the body. Right? And we learned how to check in. We learned how to create the structure of the group and to appreciate the space. We simply shared what in our life brings us here. And each week we're compounding, we're building on the previous week. Right? So we're going to follow the same structure here tonight. And tonight is survival, shame, the man box, and belonging. And so we're going to use the structure of the group to appreciate these concepts, our relationship with survival, shame, the man box, and belonging. The second stage of every group is agreement setting. And the agreements that we have here, one of the things we're going to talk about tonight with survival is that we all survived to get here. And the primary question that we're going to ask is, how did the autonomic process of survival shape you? How did the autonomic process of survival to get here shape you? And what I want you to recognize tonight is that autonomic means non-conscious. Means my nervous system is actually responding to the environment in an adaptive process to create these protective parts that aren't me. And we are awakening, we are becoming conscious as open-hearted men, as fully expressed human beings. We are becoming aware of that. And the process of checking in these groups is discovering that. And it's not a concept, it's not an idea, it's not a belief system. It's a direct experience that you feel on and in your body. And that's what the structure of the group allows us to do, is to drop into that, to create this empty space, to bring something into the space. And that's what we're going to be doing in week 3 is assertive vulnerability, using the space and going deep. It's when we actually start to be able to use the space. To get there, we've found by just doing the work together here in community, we found that this second theme, this concept of survival, our relationship with shame, and our relationship with the man box, something that we have to engage with in order to start to create this container so that we can all can find a sense of mutual belonging together by relating to this, okay? So before we go any further, I'd love to just review our agreements. Okay, so we have 3 primary agreements. The first one is confidentiality versus secrecy. Okay. And so can everybody here agree that this space is confidential? Okay, while understanding that it's not a secret. So you have permission to take what you find from this experience and to bring it out into the world around you, into your life as it is. And we actually want you to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we always differentiate between confidentiality and secrecy. It's because sometimes when we create a confidential relationship, is we create this silo in our life that we escape our challenges in our life. But we're actually doing this to bring our challenges in our life into this space and to relate to them in a new way and to bring the work out of this space into our life as it is. So you have permission to bring what you discover in this space out into the world around you with your therapist, with your coach, with your loved ones, with your journal or your podcast. But you don't have permission to share another man's experience or to talk about another man. Does that make sense? Awesome. So the second one is the 3-part intention, okay? And so notice how, again, I speak for myself, all right? So my intention is to create spaces where I can practice tools and skills to slow down and get out of my head and egoic patterns and to get into my body. Just invite you to take a breath. On the exhale, just drop into your body. You're always coming back into it. And so that's my intention. And now, do you have that shared or similar intention? Do you feel connected to that intention? Okay, so I have my intention and you have your intention. And then together as a group, we create a very special container, okay? And one of the reasons why these containers are so special is because it requires an immense amount of skill to carry this intention out of this space into our default relationships, right? Into our life, right? Not everybody has an intention to slow down, right? And to practice tools and skills to get out of your head and into your body in the default experience of our life. So this is a very special moment as a group of men where we can actually practice this, right? And that is what's happening on or in our body is when we create this space. Now, when we slow things down, we can bring our awareness to what's happening on or in our body in relationship to what other men bring into the space as we deepen our relational intimacy, right? If you continue after fundamentals into creating your own group, or you continue in another group in the community, you'll find that you can actually start to bring in more and more things into the group as your ability to work with the space expands, okay? And another man's work will help you deepen your own. So the third one is this paradox of safe space or cultivating a brave space. And so this one is, it's the third one that we always have to go over in relationship to the other two. So if we are creating a confidential space and we have this intention to slow things down and to get out of our head and to go patterns to get into our body, what we end up most of us end up wanting, or what we might think we want when we align with that, is that I want a safe space, right? And or a space where I can be more authentic, or a space where I can work on things that are going into do shadow work or parts work, however you, whatever words you want to use for it. But what happens is that if I have that intention, or if I have that desire, whether I'm conscious of it or not, and I do have that, is then I may, from moment to moment, make the space unsafe. And this just happens, is a paradox of safe space, is that if I want that, or some part of me wants it, I may manipulate or change how I show up in order to make help Londell feel more comfortable. Or I may remove parts of myself in order to help me maintain attachment with Benjamin. Right? Or Benjamin may do that with me from moment to moment. And so all we have to do is just acknowledge that this happens, right? And bring this up into the light, right? Like bring it up into the group, and then acknowledge that we actually want a brave space. We want to create a space where everyone in the space knows how to reinstate safety when it's lost, right? Because then this, from moment to moment, if we ever have a rupture, or if we ever end up working on something that makes someone else feel uncomfortable, when my protective part comes up to say, hey, we have this fundamental grounding that, hey, whatever Benjamin did isn't bad. He didn't make me feel this way. What happened inspired something to happen for me, right? As long as we're staying within our group agreements, right? Which are our longer agreements, right? We're not attacking each other when no one's being violent. We're all here to practice these skills together. Okay, so the agreement here after that long explanation is, do you take responsibility to let the group know how you're feeling when it shifts or changes? Can you take responsibility to let the group know? Great, awesome. So that's called crafting the alliance, right? And they're like our distilled 3 agreements that we need to go over in order to start to craft this alliance together to be able to go deeper. And we have a longer list of agreements. If you want to go to unshakableman.com/agreements, there's the longer list of community agreements there. So let's check in, and let's get grounded, come into our 3rd stage of every group. We're going to come into our bodies. We're just going to get out of our head. We're going to practice getting grounded. And I always like to relate this to what we're doing for the theme for that night. Wherever we were coming in from, just want you to start to find your seat. Just come into a seat that you can check your seat, that you can sit still in, that feels like you have a good posture. You can be lying down or supported by something beneath you if you want, or you can have like a pillow that raises your pelvic girdle and allows your knees to come down below your pelvis. Traditional seated meditation. And so just find your seat, appreciate your seat. And that's the first step of building the posture for the posture or the practice of pure awareness. And then we're going to come into the body. If you want, you can close your eyes, or you can bring your eyes to fix on something, a dristy point of focus that lets you bring your awareness into your body. And we're just going to start with full body breathing. So I want you to imagine that every pore on your entire body, on your back, your front, your top, your bottom, both sides, every pore of your body is breathing. So when you inhale in your nose, you also are inhaling in your knees, in your shoulders, just allowing every part of the surface of your body to turn on. And I just want you to bring your energy and awareness down to your left big toe. Feel into your big toe. What does it feel like in there? Can you catch a sensation? And then we're going to track up from your big toe into the bottom of your foot. And then your ankle. And then your calf. Breathing into everything from your big toe up to your calf. Behind your knee. Top of your left thigh. And if you lose it, just come back. Come back to a sensation honoring your body. And then coming up to your pelvic girdle and your groin. And down your right leg, just allow both your legs to turn on. Everything up to your lower belly. And now we're going to breathe into the lower back. Your belly. Just softly inhaling and exhaling in and out of your belly. Releasing any tension as you move along. And coming up to your navel. The middle of your lower back, on your back side. Your armpits, breathing into your armpits. On the front of your chest, your upper back. And go down the left side of your left bicep. Inside of your left elbow. Your forearm. Your wrist. And then both your hands, just feeling into your hands. So just letting your whole body below your neck just breathe. And then opening the back of your neck. Your throat. Your jaw. The back of your head. The muscles around your nose and your eyes. And let your whole face go. Just let your entire face just relax. In somatic traditions, they say your ego is held in the face. And you can relate that to the nervous system in a little while. And all the way up to the crown of your head, just breathing through your entire body and everywhere. All of the pores are breathing. So that entire practice is simply to just come into the body. So now I just want you to bring your awareness down into your belly. You're going to open up your bottom of your pelvic girdle and breathe down into the ground. So this step is to remind ourselves that the space inside of us is not actually separate from the space outside of us. But that's actually an idea. We have this idea that we are not permeable, that we're not a natural part of the environment. And we, in fact, are. And so go ahead and breathe down into the ground. We're just going to take 6 belly breaths. So deepen your exhale, pulling your belly in while you exhale, and then inhale into the ground. 6. Like roots of a tree down into the ground. 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. Breathing into your lower belly. Notice how your body feels. Notice how it lights up. Now that we've breathed down into the ground, we've found our seat, we've come into our body, breathe down into the ground. Now we can breathe up from the ground into our belly. We're going to do 6 breaths again. And this time, I want you to notice the subtle sensation, the upward flow from your belly into your back. Just notice how your body wants to open and wants to liven, unravel. Just invite you to let it do that as we do these breaths. So here we go. Breathing up from the ground into your lower belly. 6. Feeling into your lower belly. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one, up from the ground into your belly. 1. So go ahead and just be in your body. Allowing this experience to be exactly as it is. And when you feel ready, you can just come on back into the space. For the good of the group, would anyone like to share what your inner experience was like? What was your relationship like with that meditation?
I'll share.
Thanks, Max.
I felt very calm and connected. And just really love getting into the experience of my body and out of my head. Felt like I was more connected to my body and less in my head, but I certainly was analyzing here and there, um, but less of it. And I was in my head, before this, so I'm stuck on some personal things that I'm having trouble letting go of, but that felt kind of calming and nice.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Guys, one of the things that I'm always reminded of is that we actually need to practice to come into the body, that our nervous system, we're going to talk about this tonight, the nervous system is nervous. And the nervous system is in a state, the parasympathetic nervous system is actually in a state of constantly reacting to our environment. And we have to come into the body. And that isn't an idea or a concept or a belief. It's not, there's actually something to experience going on in there. And the process of being in our life takes us out of it, right? Like from almost the second we wake up in the morning, we're leaning into our life, or we're responding or reacting to our environment. And so whenever Max, like I really appreciated how what I noticed in your own explanation of your internal relationship is that you have a relationship with being in your head and being in your body. And as that happens, as we deepen that, we become more aware of the difference, right? And that is felt. It can only be felt on or in the body. The body is sending us a signal, and then we are becoming aware of that. Okay. So we're going to check in, create our container, and then we'll get into survival, shame, the man box, and belonging. We'll use the space on the inside of our check-in to do that. Okay. So anybody want to kick us off with check-in? Awesome.
This is Benjamin checking in. I see a framed piece of art on my wall. It says, if the music is good, you dance. I see a green tote bag on the floor, and I hear the fan on my floor at high speed. In my body, I've noticed solidness in my abdomen. I notice my tongue vibrating as I exhale. I can feel air circulating around my ankles. Emotionally, I feel tender. I feel distracted, and I feel peaceful. This is Benjamin checking in.
Thank you, Benjamin. Feel free to pass it on to the next man.
I'll pass it on to Mike.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Guys, I invite you to open to receive Mike's share.
Mike, I'm checking in. See two pillows on the chair beside me. See the light from the Xbox. And I see the edge of a Crayola crayon box peeking out of a drawer. in my body. I feel the pressure of quantum sitting on my lap. I feel sweat on my forehead from the warmth of the evening. And I feel a fluttering, itchy sensation in my left eye. Emotionally, I'm feeling conflicted. I'm feeling happy. And I'm feeling contemplative. I'm Mike and I'm checking in. And I'll pass it to
Good to be with you,
Max.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Max and I'm checking in. In front of me, I see a large rubber plant. I see my slam ball and my gray cat. Inside, I feel the warmth of my cat next to me, tingling in my stomach. And tiredness in my body. I emotionally, I am unsure about something. Exhausted and kind of stoic feeling.
Kind of. Good catch.
Yeah. I'm Max and I'm checking in.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Max.
And I will pass it to Brian.
Thank you, Max. This is Brian checking in. The window treatment is partially open and I can see that it's dark outside. Inside, the lights have taken over and temperature is comfortable. It's quiet. It feels safe, cozy. My feet are crossed. I'm comfortable on this chair. I am at an angle, my arms crossed. Emotionally, physically, I feel no pain. Emotionally, I feel ready for challenges, celebrating victory, feeling okay. Brian checking in. Over to Lundell.
To be with you, Brian.
This is Lundell checking in. I see pictures of my dogs on my monitor. I hear the TV in the other room. And I see the glow of 2 cameras sitting in front of my face. I feel tightening in my back, my lower back. I feel heaviness in my stomach. And I feel discomfort in my groin. Emotionally, I feel preoccupied, angry, and sad. This is Rondell checking.
Thank you, Wanda. Pass it on to Tim. Got you, Londell.
Thank you.
Preoccupied.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. This is Tim, and I'm checking in, and I can see the reflection of the room around me and the window in front of me. See the lights of my lamp on my desk, and can notice the stickers on my water bottle. Physically, can feel my tongue's cold in the beverage that I'm drinking. Can feel the difference between my office mat from my chair and the carpet on my right foot. And I can feel the ace wrap around my leg where my injury site is. Emotionally, busy, willing, and receptive. Tim, and I'm checking in, and I think I will pass it to Chris, who's the last guy, right?
Yep. Thanks, Tim. This is Chris checking in. See the 4 limbs of my plant dangling down. See 2 push pins in the wall. And I notice a little chip in the paint at the corner of the wall. In my body, feel warmth in my, like right above my eyebrows. Felt a pop in my right foot, my big toe. And I feel a burning sensation on my tongue. Emotionally, I'm feeling eager, feeling tired, and feeling needy. This is Chris checking in. Back to Chris. I think that's everybody, right?
Is that everyone? Brian, you went, right? Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Chris. I'm Chris, and I'm checking in. I notice some leaves that fell off a plant on the floor. I notice the fog lifting above the horizon and the sunlight underneath it. And I notice the light in the room is changing. Physically on my body, I notice my just feeling into my lower body. Just notice how my eyelids relaxed, muscles around my face relaxed. My body feels energized, and I can feel my lower back is open and relaxed. Emotionally, I feel caring, I feel interested, and I feel creative. I'm Chris, and I'm checking in. It's good to be here with you, gentlemen. So go ahead and just notice. Let's all just take one breath, one deep breath in our nose with like 3 sniffs at the top to create some tension, and then a long extended exhale, okay? So we can just do it together. So 3, 2, 1. Just notice like what's shifted or what's changed as we create the space. And I invite you to use that breath to come back into your body whenever you get too much up into your head, because we are going to be dancing across some things tonight. And I invite you guys to engage, okay? So survival. I'm going to share my screen, but I am going to come in and out of it because I don't want to be completely in share screen mode the whole time. So survival, shame, the man box, and belonging. How did the autonomic process of survival shape you? How did the autonomic process of survival shape? Does anyone want to take a whack of what answering that question? Go for it, Tim.
I've always said that like survival mode for me is something that I grew accustomed to throughout my life, but I do know that it's built up my anxiety while also building up my resiliency.
Okay.
So it's a double-edged sword for me.
Yeah.
It has a pro and a con, like most things in life.
Yeah. In here we would say there's a constructive consequence and a destructive.
Yeah. And I've learned to operate in it when necessary. And up until the last couple of years, I didn't know how to exit it when necessary. And I've gone through a lot of circumstances where I've had to relearn that and train myself to kind of step out of it by force if necessary, instead of just now it's more of a comfortable and casual arrangement. Mm-hmm. When my survival mode has altered from being a panic state to a trusting state, where when I was younger, I would pump into survival mode and panic and rush and do and go and run, where my instinct now, being a little older, is when I feel the necessary motion and movement in my life to survive, I stop and I slow down and I assess it and think about it before acting.
I stop and I slow down.
Yeah. Whether as the younger version of myself, without any guidance or any training, would use it as a tool to sprint forward without care or abandon for things. So.
Who here is feeling connected to this? Awesome. Tim, thank you so much for sharing, just like right off the bat. Something I want to point out is how your language, how you, it's like you in your own intuitive sense of yourself with this stop and this slow down, right? Like what automatically happens when we do that, and that you feel it in your body, right? And what I want to invite in for all the men in the space is that we only are becoming, there's the hard way or the open way in this work. We can harden to our environment, where we can open. Both are challenging, and that we are becoming more tender, we're becoming more sensitive. And as we become more tender and more sensitive in this open way, it calls on us to have more attunement, to be able to respond in more and more open ways to what's happening on or in our body. That I love what you said about your relationship with it and how it's changed, right? Because we're not trying to escape this, right? And I'd love to just bring in 2 quotes from an article that I've been using as a reference, and we're not going to get into polyvagal theory here, but I do want to just read these 2 quotes here. So the first one is can you guys see that? So it's the autonomic nervous system responds moment to moment to what are often competing needs to survive and to be social. In a state of protection, survival is the only goal. The system is closed to connection and change. In a state of connection, health, growth, and restoration are possible. Trauma stories are held in autonomic pathways that are tuned to a low threshold, high intensity pattern of responding. The autonomic nervous system shapes the way you experience your life. Beliefs, behaviors, and body responses are embedded in the autonomic hierarchy. Physiology and psychology are interconnected. State and story work together in a persistent and, if not interrupted, enduring loop. If not interrupted. Polyvagal theory invites you to take the science of feeling safe enough to fall in love with life and take the risks of living. By bringing explicit awareness to implicit workings of the autonomic nervous system, you can learn to become a regulated and regulating resource for your own well-being and for people around you. When we check in this space, when we create the opportunity for Amanda to check in, and we ask each other, what are you feeling? Where do you feel it in your body? What does that part of you need? You are bringing explicit awareness to implicit workings of your autonomic nervous system. You are bringing explicit awareness to implicit workings of your autonomic nervous system. We are becoming aware of the sensations on or in our body that are sending signals to the brain that if we don't tap into that, we don't drop below the story in our head and get into our body in a brave space, right? In a space where we can show up and be with these sensations on or in the body, then they will stay fixed in an enduring loop. And we learn this in relationship. Okay. So the key here is that we have gone through a process of survival to get to where we are today. And through this process of survival, our autonomic nervous system has responded to the environment in ways that worked to survive, but not necessarily to connect. Okay. And we notice this through noticing tension on or in our body in relationship to our environment. Okay. And now shame. What is shame? The emotion of shame. So shame is the emotion that says, if I told you, if I told the tribe what happened or what I did or what I'm thinking, I would not be allowed in the tribe. And shame is constructive in small settings over time through an adaptive process to keep us in groups. But once it becomes manufactured by us, becomes destructive, very, very destructive. Okay. So I just want to recognize what shame is. Does that definition of shame connect with anyone here? Okay. Would anyone like to just share your own perspective on it, or what that inspired for you?
Yeah. The word closed off was coming up for me as you were talking about that. Yeah, and just relating to what you were just saying about the autonomic system, being based more around survival and not around connection. There's an interesting relationship there of how kind of shame fits into that with like it closes off that feeling of connection. It makes you feel more separated from others.
Yeah, it closes off the feeling, the sensation, I'm going to say, of connection. We are disconnecting from our environment when we are in a state of shame. Disconnects us from our brothers, right? From the other men in our life. Okay, we're not going to spend too much time on shame. The most important thing to recognize here is that shame is the emotion that tells us that if I told you, I wouldn't be allowed in the tribe. Right? It has constructive and destructive consequences, right? So the next topic we're going to explore, so there's survival, right? So survival is throughout the process to get here, I cultivated protective parts, right? And so much so that I have identified with these parts. For me, my relationship with these protective parts was being incredibly structured, goals driven, aggressive. Look at how my face just went like this, right? From a place of not feeling safe. If I didn't structure, if I didn't attack, then I didn't feel safe. It felt unsafe to slow down. But my identification with that, the environment told me, incentivized me to be that way because of the next thing that I want to talk about, which is this man box. That was a socially acceptable way to be a young man. Okay. So the man box is the concept that we have, that we give to the social pressure for men to be a certain way, to fall into alignment with the hegemonic culture of manhood, which is the culture of manhood that is dominant in society that we are in. I think we have a very, very, very good example of the difference between hegemonic culture of manhood here in San Francisco, let's say, for a given region, and Iran. I've been hearing a lot of stuff on the news about things that are going on overseas. Has everybody heard news recently? I don't want to get too much into, okay. There is a hegemonic culture of manhood for any given social milieu that we're in. But we as a group of people who identify as male, as a group of men in this group, because of the internet, right? Because of having all of this connection, because of Disney, because of popular culture, because of our upbringing, right? As young men, we have been told that there indirectly that there is a certain way of being a man. And so the first step to move through this is first we have to become aware of what our unconscious scripting is. And so we call this constructing the man box. Okay. Can you guys see me if I share this?
Yep.
Okay. Can you see the other men on the screen too?
I can see everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So to construct the man box without talking to each other, what I want to do is just for 2 minutes, I want you to write down 10 words or phrases that the culture, this doesn't mean you agree with it. This doesn't mean that you disagree with it. This can be constructive. These are things that make you feel good. They can make you feel challenged. The key is what are the definitions? What are the labels or constraints or characteristics that define being in the box? Okay. So I'm going to set a timer here. For 2 minutes. Whoa. What are 10, at least 10? I invite you to not press enter, but you can put them in the chat when you're ready. Use commas, don't press enter.
And these are the words of not what we necessarily believe in, but like what we think society expects.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Ten, 9, pause it just so we don't have to. So these are, what has society told you, or what are you aware of that is in the box? Okay. You guys all ready to press enter? All right, press enter. Oh, that's fun. Awesome. So I'll invite whoever is at the top to go first. I think mine was the first one, so I'll read mine. So stoic, being brave, tough, aggressive, breadwinner, athletic, stoic again, heterosexual, forceful, leader. All right, Tim to go next.
Tough, damaged, silent. I put selfless initially, but also selfish simultaneously. Eternal, miserable, wounded, rugged, rich, and attractive.
Okay. All right, Max, you lead you.
I wrote money, so rich, strength, no emotions, vanity in the sense of, looking good, always working hard, can't be afraid, complaining is good, overall negativity. That's all I got.
Thank you, Max. Ben.
I said strong, conqueror, driven, non-emotional, highly sexual, successful, breadwinner, ruthless.
And Mike.
I got to get back to the chat. Put strength, no fear, don't cry, stoicism, contain emotions, don't be a sissy, warrior.
Wow, Chris Garcia, good job. You win for longest list.
Put strong, stoic, emotionalist, sexual conquest, provider, protector, fight, persevere through all obstacles, athletic, competitive, charismatic, and outgoing, and then a constant desire for more.
Wow. Wow. And Rondell.
Strong, tall, muscular, sports-loving, emotionally stoic, with facial hair, sexually promiscuous, deep voice, and financially successful.
Ben. And Brian, feel free to read the list. And do you want to go? You're on mute.
Were you calling on me, Chris?
Yes, if you'd like
Yeah,
to
thank
share.
you. Sorry, I don't always follow instructions. I wrote down my list. Okay, low display of emotions, no crying. Straight, sports, especially NFL, no cats, dress similar, lower pitch voice, strong, no touch, same gender.
Oh, wow. That was visceral. That was a visceral one for no touch, same gender, instead of saying heterosexual. That's a powerful way to share that. Ben, what did you want to share about what you just put in?
Oh, I just noticed that how like strength or like being tough was kind of near the beginning of all of our lists.
Yeah. So guys, I invite all of you to unmute yourselves so you can engage in this next part. This is what is your just initial response or reaction to this list? I mean, and how many of you here, by show of hands, how many of you have done this exercise before? Okay, so only two of us have done this before. Three of us have done this before, but the other three not. And yeah, I'm curious to just open it up.
I find it quite depressing. Very rigid, and not surprising why so many men are in pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Thank you, Rondell.
I thought it was really interesting how many people put some sort of, sexual mean, like expectation of heterosexual activity or a lack of ability to be non-heterosexual. It's not something I ever really associated with masculinity, but it's interesting that so many people do.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was just thinking to myself when I said no emotion, there were similar responses to that.
Emotionless.
Just
emotionless.
Yeah, like how I react to things unemotionally, and
how
I
I
always
react
end
to
up
things unemotionally.
Yeah, like in
my
the
word
sense
for that
of
would be I disconnect, I disassociate.
I disconnect or I disassociate. Yeah, I'm dealing. I had a big blowout with my wife, and I felt completely disconnected and disassociated, and didn't, I didn't show any emotion. I just was on like damage control, and then the past 3 days since I did my damage control, she seems like she's connected to me, but I feel completely like off, and I feel like if I were still able to show emotion, well, it's not that I'm not able to show emotion, but if I was still, if I didn't train myself to hold everything in a lot of the ways, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's just what occurred to me when we were doing this, is that I'm holding something in.
Could we see your face a little better? I don't know what your cat's name is.
Oh, yeah, he's annoying. He's a good boy. I'm just saying, I feel like I almost feel like I haven't learned how to express my emotions so I can let some things out and feel reconnected with my wife again.
What are you feeling right now, Max?
Feeling a little sad, and
a little.
Yeah, I'm feeling sad.
Yeah.
And
just in this moment, what does that feel like on in your body?
My nose was tingling, and my heart started to race a little bit. And
with that, in honor of your partner, in honor of your wife, but for you, can you just allow that to be here for just a moment?
Yeah. Yep.
Where did your eyes just go to the left? What was that?
Just nothing. Just moving around.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing them.
Yep.
Are you feeling called out right now? Okay.
No,
on the spot?
no, not at all. No, I like to establish like a safe dialogue and feel safe to communicate for the most part, and then no, I want to participate, so that's why I said it.
I feel feel deeply honored and connected to that, Max. And when you said that you had to put your emotions aside in order to maintain connection for that space for your wife, and now you're in the state that you're in, I felt sad. And I noticed myself want to like get up and stretch out, and want to move away. No, I don't feel, I want to come back to this. Great space for us. It's just a perfect example of using the space, what we're here to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just take a soup breath, a soft breath in our nose, just so this is a list of terms in 2 minutes that a group of men are putting without seeing each other put these down. We all brought these in. How have these been constructed? In what ways have strength, stoicism, being a protector, being muscular, how have these things been constructed?
Do you mean like internally or externally? Like how we're constructing them?
Whatever connections you want to make. From just an adaptive process, right? Like, how have these things been constructed?
I noticed when I was writing my list that I felt angry towards these things that I was writing. I was imagining people and men that acted like this throughout my life that I despised, that I did not enjoy being around, because I'm not the type of person that enjoys being in that construct or engaging in that construct. And I noticed I was thinking about things that I just, for some reason, thought were negative connotations and not necessarily healthy connotations for masculinity. And it's not like you asked us to do that. You were just asking us what the general consensus of what the observation of masculinity is. And it felt interesting to me to attach those automatically to a negative connotation instead of just I mean, there's nothing negative about the words. They're just words other than, miserable or wounded, but there's nothing negative about being rugged. But for some reason I was like thinking of, a type of individual that would portray those traits in a negative way.
Yeah.
I want to, for me, that, building on what Tim just shared, is it Tim or Timothy? Which would you prefer?
Okay. Either's fine.
While I don't think, well, for my list, the words aren't necessarily used to or aren't negative, but in my life, they've all been used against me one way or another to make me feel less of a man. And those are things that I've been ashamed of. I've held shame about. And things that I can't control. I mean, there's a couple that I can't control. It's been by family members. It's been by people I don't know, people that just meet me casually, and it's, when you said the word constructive, the first thing that came into my mind is that it's a con. And it is a con to think that in order to be a man, I have to have check boxes to say, make certain that I look this way, I talk this way, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Something I'm even hesitant to say it, but for me, there's also a racial component for it, which is number 10. Because of the way I talk, how I've been socialized, because I'm gay, I'm definitely not seen as a Black man within the Black community by many people. And it's not too long ago that, Black men in general weren't considered men or even human. And so there's still people that I encounter that still hold those types of thoughts and beliefs. So again, it's not stuff that I have control of or that are inherently bad when in just reading, but these are things and qualities that have been used to make me feel less than, or used to encourage me to feel less than myself, and which I've chosen to do so.
Thank you. I want to, oh, Brian, did you want to say something?
I wanted one. I wanted to at the right time here.
You what?
I said I want to check in at the time here. Let me get rid of this. Come back to me.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Yeah. Guys, I want to just recognize here is this is not condoning, right? This is an exercise for us to become conscious of the culture of manhood that we exist within, not the culture we're creating here, not the culture that we want to be a part of, but what we are, the pressure, of hegemonic masculinity, of hegemonic manhood. I want to be very careful between manhood and masculinity, right, in this space. And so from here, I just want you to, for me, what I want you to recognize is to recognize the somatic pull, the division of having to pull ourselves apart, right? To put on this mask of what it means that we put on in order to push through, which is an adaptive thing. It is not us. It is how we have experienced our life, right? Being muscular was an adaptive thing. It is important. It was helpful to be muscular at certain times. It was helpful to be a provider or to be a protector or to fight or to be athletic in certain adaptive ways. But this is not all of us, right? Now, the next exercise is I want to take 2 minutes to write down 5 things that would keep us in the box. So this might be things people have said. This might be things that would happen. This might be things that we might think would happen, but didn't. These might be things that have actually happened, right? That keep us in that box, right? Does this make sense? So I'm going to start the timer now. Try not to press enter until we're done. Okay, press enter. Okay. The connection I want to make here is that all of these things induce shame. Shame is what keeps us either in the box or has us reject the box completely and try to run away from the box, to try to not be, to not identify with being a man, to feel bad about being manly. And this is something that we are absolutely seeing in the manosphere, that we are seeing at a political, social level. You like that word, manosphere? What we are doing here in this community, in these groups, is we are creating an opportunity with structure and skill to be able to create a space to be able to have this dynamic opportunity to become whole. And this is what it means when you read these. Don't be a bitch, man up, don't cry, take care of someone else who's more in need. Oh, so that right there, Chris, guilt, pain, fear, envy, suck it up, don't cry, grow a pair, don't wear shorts, don't play with dolls. You're a fag, you sound white, you're a nerd, a geek, you sound like a woman, you're too sensitive, toughen up. Metrosexual. I remember the first time when my uncle, who I looked up to so much, told somebody else that I was a metrosexual when I was like 11 years old. And I didn't even know what that meant. Did you bang her? Right? Pull your shit together. The cultural pressure that reinforces this is shame. The emotion that is being put on us that reinforces this box. And I've heard many men, and in here say, I don't even want to be in a box, but we are dealing with this in relationship with the culture until we become skilled enough to open this up, to engage with the world as it is. And that's what we're doing here tonight. And that's how we cultivate a mutual sense of belonging as human beings who identify as male. And this is one of the reasons why, as this community has matured and as I have matured in this work, I've had to come and to rephrase that. And I felt that there was a time when I felt uncomfortable about saying for people who identify as male, but this really is about identifying. It's not about our biological sex. It's about how we identify. Can we identify as open-hearted men, as men, and be able to feel open with it? Does anybody want to share your relationship with that?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty shut down by all of this, I'm being honest. It's I think it's a lot to unpack and especially be vulnerable with other guys. I notice my brain and body rejecting looking at the 5 things we wrote down because it felt like I was looking at it in the face, and it's pretty terrifying. I identified with rejecting the box and trying to run away from it because showing that I'm different, that, you know, I'm not like my dad or my uncles or those other guys, and how that has ostracized me in a way.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for speaking into the space, and thank you for bringing in what your relationship is with this. I felt deeply connected with that.
Yeah, Chris, when you use the word shut down and you your body language and the way that you're acting about what you just said, and it seems like you've accepted that role and you embrace it. You're not afraid of it.
I don't know. What do you mean?
I'm not sure why. It's just the way that the way that you spoke about your relatives and the way that you spoke about your space within that familial arrangement seems like something you've been beaten by before, but that you're more acceptive of now that you've kind of gotten past that initial, like Chris said, the shame of not adhering to what your familial relationships expect of you when it comes to that box.
I'd agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Through men's work and being in this community and other spaces, like it's helped me own it. But yeah.
Chris, when you said I am not that way, for me, I noticed that brought me energy. And I immediately wondered, is Chris okay being angry in here?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm gonna say no, since I trailed off like that.
Yeah. I want you to know that when you said shut down, my relationship with that was, is Chris afraid to be angry in here? Because
no,
I felt like being angry.
Fair, but I think what it brought up was shame around not being enough.
Mm-hmm.
Instead. I know anger is something that I'm working on being more comfortable with and expressing, but it wasn't present when I was sharing.
Well, can we come from this place? Can everyone just check in with where you're at? And Chris, I want you to know that what you're bringing into the space to me makes sense, and it feels it's welcome here. Okay. And the next stage of this exercise that I want to bring in is how do you want to show up as a man? What does it mean to be an unshakable man? What does it mean to be a man to you? I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. All right. All right. I'd love to give each man the opportunity to read his own, so it comes from your own voice. So whoever wants to, who's the first one at the top? I think it was. Here it is, Max, I think.
I said, having the courage to be disliked, doing what feels right in the face of social pressure, full personal self-expression, fulfillment of dreams and goals, being okay if you don't reach the said goals, expressing emotion no matter what.
I feel like an antidote to where I was at before coming into my space. Mike.
For me, it's being open-hearted, being caring, respectful of all, communicative, challenging the norm, and being tender.
Thank you.
For me, I said guidance, they're nurturing, solid, certainty, and trustworthy.
You, Ben. Chris Garcia.
I said knowledge of my values, be vulnerable, to have and hold boundaries, to know my limits, to be kind and loving, to know my needs and how to meet them.
Wow. Tim.
To cultivate trust, strive for growth, strengthen my resolve, be overly compassionate, and to be open to whatever that ends up being.
Thank you, Tim. For mine, it was to be able to hold space for any and all emotions, to be able to regulate myself and others, to be tender and powerful and loving to all things, to be able to protect others if I needed to be skillful with my body and what I create in the world, to be able to trust myself to step forward and to set direction for my union with my fiance while staying open to all that she brings into our relationship. It's about expanding, not trying to be in any box. Lundell.
I put being vulnerable, being empathetic, empathic, so connecting with people at a feeling level, nurturing, gentle and firm, sexually fluid, open, loving, kind, personable, and non-threatening.
Yeah, Ben.
After hearing all of these, I'm just struck by the difference in my body in in receiving all of these words and phrases compared to the first round of all the words that we listed about being in the box, and just how these feel more wholesome to me. Like I feel there's more of myself fully represented with these words more so than the words from the first list.
Thank you, Ben. I feel every time, and if not more now than any other time that we've gotten to do this together. I mean, Mike, Londell, like you and we've been a part of designing this together. And I noticed for me that it's feeling this shrinking that I was feeling before, and then hearing what from each man's voice, what it means. And I just have these like blips in my mind of I mean, there are men's groups that are out there that are literally doing the exact opposite, right? Like there are communities of men that are wholly built on, and I noticed for myself, like I put protecting if I needed to, and I feel scared to say that, right? Like when I notice that it comes from a place of like this like fear on and in my body. And then I noticed like sexually fluid and how open I am in relationship to that in my life, and how that has not been the case for me growing up, the way I was brought up. And yet now in my home environment, my life and my environment, it wouldn't even be a question. And it just, I feel the one thing I felt like I just have to share into the space is that it's like, I have to do this work. Like, this is why we are here. This is why I'm here doing this with you guys, is to engage on this and to create the space for us to connect, because I just feel so like this is so deeply important. And that when Tim, Max, Ben, Chris, like when we engage on this, we become qualified. We are here training and creating the space so that we can share this with other people, no matter how they identify.
I have to say that as we were reading through that second list, there was just this immense feeling of hopefulness in my body, to sit here and look at all of these men here tonight, and to hear those things that you all want to be, just brings me a true sense of hope for our world, for the world that my kids are growing, that my grandkids are growing up in, and that they will be able to experience something much different than we as men have experienced. So it's really a good feeling.
I can't necessarily figure out what feeling I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
I have this, it feels like butterflies in my stomach. And
do you feel triggered, Londell? Somewhere?
I'm not certain. I mean, what has been going through my mind as others have been sharing just immediately is a sense of shared hope, like Mike shared, but also a feeling of resentment. And when I say that, it just makes me, I choose to feel, or I am feeling not very good about that. It evokes some shame. So this is like, a very circular process for me at this moment. Yeah, it's, I mean, there's.
Lindell, I feel caring, man, as you say that. And I just want you to know, like, yeah, that's it.
I also want to offer that your resentment is welcome here.
Thank you.
Lindell, I think that if I can make a connection, when I noticed myself typing out to protect, and I said fear, I just noticed that, like, I felt the need to, I think that phrase for me came from a place of being in the third stage there, when we were all writing down this stuff from the man box, right? And this anger to, like, not, like, to have this, not, this is not okay, right? And I feel it here when I feel when I sit with the, like, you feeling, bringing in resentment, and any question that would be not allowed, or like somehow, like, right? And then Ben, when you stepped in and said it's welcome here, I just felt like joy, and was able to make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to remind, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I sorry that I'm all over this room. When I mean, I'm connecting to your statement about protecting. When Chris was sharing earlier, I just felt I wanted to protect him from feeling those emotions. And then I sat with that and said, well, that's not very manly of you to do that. And it's, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I feel like I need a hug, is what I feel like I need. And yeah.
We're all trying, Lindell.
Lindell, you can always give yourself a big hug, man, if you ever really need one.
Yeah. I'll give myself one right now. You want to give yourself one?
Hug your dog, brother.
There's got to be a blues song for that. All right, guys. Lindell, do you mind if I step in?
Please do.
Okay. Guys, this is not this. I think one of the things I want to point out is that this exercise is not supposed to make us feel good. It's designed to that, and I want to remind that there are no good or bad emotions here. But I do want to ask, do you feel a sense of belonging? I just want to recognize that together. And it's okay if you don't. You don't have to. Right? And that this to me is recognizing the work that it takes to really become the men that are skilled enough to be able to bring this light to the world, to be able to do the work of open-hearted men, right? To be able to be that example in face of all of the stuff we conjured here in the space. And we absolutely did conjure it, right? Like we put that into, we wrote those things down on those sheets and we brought it in, we felt it on and in our bodies. Okay. Does anyone have anything you want to just share or say before we close out for the evening? We've got 10 minutes.
Yeah. This isn't necessarily my first foray into this, and I've connected with you on other platforms, and every single time, and I was, reflecting on that last week, and I didn't even realize it, but from the other, whether it was through the prior platform or just, the connections before this kind of launched into what it is now, I have connections with people that I built in the same way, that I chat to online, that I've never met in person, that I feel connected to because I understand their mentality and how they see the world around them and it's almost like carrying a badge into the world, and understanding what everybody else in the group goes through, because it just changes the prism of your life. It changes the lens that you look at life through. And that's not easy in certain societies, in certain considerations of who you are and how you present yourself to the world, or just who you happen to be naturally, and I can sense some of that in Londell, and I can sense some of it in, everybody that talks when they start out. You can tell that people are carrying it. And I've really thought that was part of that connection, to be willing to carry it and not just check out and be like, yeah, no, I can't, I don't want to, and I think that's part of the agreement to be here. It's not really something that you talk about, but it's part of something that's just understood, and the willingness and the openness and the vulnerability to carry that, like you said, carry that out into the world and be that person. For one reason or another, it builds connection automatically and understanding.
Thank you, Tim. Tim, I'll go off of what you shared, and you said like it happens automatically. In my experience, when we say like we checked in, right? Like we check in and we arrive and we ground and we set these agreements, and we all have this protective layer, right? We have this layer of emotional residue that we see through, as you said, through our experience of our life. But when we discover these ways to drop out of that, to get out of those our heads and egoic patterns, to get into our bodies, we do automatically connect. We feel more compassionate, more connected, more creative. And that process requires skill, right? But all of us here are on that path together. And in my knowing, this is not a belief, this is my knowing from this experience, is that we are all learning to do this together right now. We always learn this in relationship. It's always been that way. That's why if you look at the arms of Tibetan Buddhism, they all branch off to different teachers, to different groups, right? And they all practice, but we're all working with the same fundamental landscape. And when I hear you, Tim, talk that way, it's when we check out and we have the last section of inspired integrations. That's if you form a group with 5 men and you work with each other for a year, if you're in a community like this one for a year, it doesn't really matter to me what size or how you practice. We're all checking in here, and then we're bringing what we discover here out into our life, and that requires skill. And then we come back into the group and we bring what our relationship was with that. And in that way, we're not telling anyone here how to be a man or how to be a human being. We're learning to guide ourselves and other men to our own wisdom, innate wisdom and healing and aligned action, right? And that process is incredibly intimate and creative and experiential. But when it happens, I get to learn through you, Tim, and I get to learn through Lundell. And it's very challenging. It's so challenging to be here right now, to just appreciate how much work it took for you guys to all show up here in this Zoom and to spend this time together. Just appreciating that is immensely powerful to me. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work. Let's check out. Okay. I'm Chris. I'm checking out. I'm feeling thankful. I'm feeling as the smile on my face, energized. I almost said surprisingly. It's not a surprise. And called upon. I'm Chris, and I'm checking out. I'll pass it over to Chris Garcia.
Chris, this is Chris checking out. Feeling feeling a lot. I don't know. There's a lot going on in there at the moment. Feeling activated. I'm feeling connected, belonging, feeling loving and caring. Feeling sad. And feel a knot in or a lump in my throat. It's Chris checking out, passing it to Benjamin.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. This is Benjamin checking out. I'm feeling settled, feeling connected, and I'm feeling open. This is Benjamin checking out, passing it on to Tim.
Thanks, Benjamin. This is Tim checking out. I feel supportive, focused, and willing. We'll pass it to Max.
Thanks, Tim. This is Max. I'm checking out. I'm feeling tired, lighter, and at ease. This is Max, and I'm checking out. Pass it to Benjamin.
I've already gone.
My bad. Sorry. Mike.
Thanks, Max. This is Mike checking out, feeling caring, feeling hopeful, and I'm feeling grateful. I'm Mike and I'm checking out. Pass it over to Lundell.
This is Lundell checking out. I'm feeling exposed. I'm feeling heard and seen. And I'm feeling joy. This is Rondell checking out and passing it over to Brian.
Brian checking out. I feel content. I feel full. I feel encouraged. I feel understood. Brian checking out.
Thank you,
Brian.
Gentlemen, just look around the space and just take in the screen of one man's face. And while you're doing that, notice that there's another man taking in yours. And go ahead and switch to another man. You're in the space. And then one more. Soft inhale in your nose, into your body. This work is challenging, and you guys did it. I'd love to just give everyone here one celebration for making it this far. So, gentlemen, next, this is a turning point. And every time we've done this, it's been a turning point in the group. And I really want to recognize, like, this to me is that first week, and to come into this space is a big deal. Like, we are cutting through incredible pressure and cultural pressure to step into a container with a group of other men and to simply show up. And then tonight we conjured a lot of stuff, and it may be there. And so I invite you to please give yourself what you need. That might be laying on the ground, just falling into the earth and doing some deep belly breathing. That might be doing some yoga, going for a run, eating your favorite meal, okay? Whatever you need, give yourself, nourish yourself. But next week, I want to look ahead to where we're headed. And next week's group is assertive vulnerability, going deep and using the space. And so next week it's going to be a group, and it's our first opportunity to really use the space together. And in my experience with this community, like what we went through today is something that now you guys are aware of this. This is the stuff we have to learn to cut through with the other men in our life, their friends who don't have the skills to even share how they're feeling. But now that you're aware of this, you have the option to show up in a different way, maybe to invite other men in your life, other people in your life to share. So with that, I look forward to seeing you men here next week and going deep and using the space together.
Did everybody check out? Tim, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to double check, make sure no one got left behind.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
All right. Love you guys.
Enjoy your dogs, Londell.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Good.
Seeing you sit with your dogs brings me so much joy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
These guys are
Sounds like
awesome.
a good idea. I'm off to do it myself.
Good night, guys.
Can I?
Good night, y'all.